Welcome to the Future Tech Talk Podcast, episode 29. I'm your pilot, Nolan Michaels. It is another gloomy day down here at the ballpark. Although it was sunny yesterday, so we got that going for us, which is nice. Man, the weather is killing me. Okay, first thing on my mind, and I don't have much information on this. I got a comment on one of my videos recently that was like, are you going to address the recent plagiarism allegations or are you just going to ignore it? I was like, I'm not ignoring anything. I don't know what you're talking about. And it turns out there's a film concept artist who has put forth some examples of Midjourney creating near exact frames, I suppose, that he has worked on, mainly from The Batman with Robert Pattinson and Joker with Joaquin Phoenix. Like, you can get Midjourney to basically recreate exact scenes. And I don't know how I feel about this. I suppose my first thoughts are, yeah. Like, as soon as you try Midjourney version 6 and you type in Batman, you get images of Robert Pattinson. So, like, obviously it was trained on the movie, or at least the trailers of the movie. I suppose that's one caveat. Like, maybe it wasn't trained on the whole movie. That's probably more likely that it was just the trailer. Now, is that okay? Is that copyrighted programming that you can't access? I don't know. But again, my first reaction was just like, yeah, obviously. If you ask it for certain characters, it knows who those characters are. How do you think it knows? It's because it looked at footage or frames or stills. Like, I guess I'm unsure of the reaction because, yeah, obviously. That's basically the only way I can describe my feelings towards it. Now, given that it was obvious, is that the right thing to do? I don't know. I think there's a few directions this conversation could go. And forgive me if I speak my points out of order of the most important. Just kind of going with what's on my mind right now. I think the first problem any sort of lawsuit or clapback against Midjourney will run into is there any sort of law written right now that says you can't train AI models on existing media? Because no matter how upset you get about the practice, if there's no precedent, then I'm not sure how much of an argument you have in terms of actually getting anything done. Like, maybe you'll make the Midjourney team feel bad about their decisions, but as far as getting them to change, again, if it's not like against the rules, then it's a little more difficult to make change. I think that makes a little bit of sense. And then there's the whole monetary value of it and the idea of compensation. Like, would these people, and I'm not specifically talking about the concept artists, I'm talking about any artist or anyone who is upset at AI, would they be completely okay with it if there was compensation? Like, is the idea of money the only driving force of their attitudes? Like, surely there are artists and other AIs who have studied the work of copyrighted material. But I don't think you're going to go after things you can't see. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Midjourney is a big public name. It's only getting bigger. It's only getting better. So maybe you're not going to go after the Fiverr artists or the Etsy artists who also use your work. There's nothing really to gain from them. Like, is it all about monetary value? Midjourney sells a subscription. They have a lot of monthly users. You can prove that your work has influenced the bot, so you think you're owed some money that they make because what they make is at least very partially based upon what you've already done. Some sort of argument like that. Like, is that the trigger that if these people were paid somehow, they wouldn't complain? I don't know. I'd love to ask one of them about it. And then that brings up sort of the Netflix argument, where Netflix makes a lot of money, so it should pay its creators more. It's the cast and crew of each show they have should be paid residuals. But from the business side of things, from the Netflix side of things, nobody in their user base signs up for just one show. I mean, maybe they literally do. Like, if Stranger Things comes out this year, they're going to see an increase in users. But I mean, Netflix and the idea of it is more than the sum of its parts. Like, you can't pay extra money to show X because shows A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all of them contribute to the subscription. So who is really deserving of more? And maybe you could just determine it through watch time. And if your show gets watched more, then you're more valuable to Netflix. Trying to bring that back to AI art. Should Midjourney keep track of prompts? And if people are creating Batman material, do they have to pay DC a license? I really don't know. And it's the same idea of if you were only drawing pictures of Batman and you were trying to sell them, I think you would hear from some lawyers. You can't take intellectual property and monetize it. But Midjourney is not just a Batman generator. It's an everything generator, which means it just also happens to be able to generate Batman. So, can you point the finger and blame Midjourney for like monetary loss just because their product can do something even though it's up to the user to ask for it? I don't know, that's a really complicated conversation. And some people might not think it's complicated. They might think it's just stealing flat out. Maybe they're right. When it comes to stealing, I think that's a difficult argument to make when all you're doing is training the bot on something visual in the same way you would train a human artist. Like, is a human not allowed? Okay, maybe that's the other thing. Midjourney is a subscription. It's not selling pictures of Batman every time it's asked for it. You're selling the opportunity to ask for art or images, and those users are the ones who determine what gets created. And I know there's some words in the Midjourney terms of service that says like, hey, if you cause problems for us with regards to intellectual property, like we're going to blame you. And if you cause big problems for us, we're going to like possibly take you to court and make you pay for stuff, like something along those lines. Like it's a pretty bold thing to read in your terms of service. Like, whoa, wait, like, can I really get in trouble for this? And then another, not issue, but another thing I noticed that like there are ways to recreate existing pictures either through image prompting, where you place a reference picture in the prompt and you basically say, hey, Midjourney, I want you to use this as a template. And that's going to get you pretty close. But also in the plagiarism accusation, like if you describe the still frames from Batman or Joker, you get the pictures you're describing. Like that, maybe that's what I have difficulty with. Like if you described Batman without using the words Batman, and then it created a picture from the trailer, a still frame from the movie or, you know, from any promotional material, is that copyrighted? Like the bot is going to use your description, and if you don't use any copyrighted words, but it happens to create copyrighted material, like whose fault is that? I don't have much more to say about the idea of AI and plagiarism. I think establishing a precedent would go a long way to any conversation, because right now it feels very emotional and not a lot of logic is getting thrown around. And if you were to generate pictures of IP, let's just stick with the idea of Batman, and then you were to go online and sell those images in your digital shop, I think this concept artist and other artists would be right to attack those people. You shouldn't try and make money off of intellectual IP, and I don't think you should try to make money off of artists' names, as in using the name of an artist in a prompt and then selling that work. It doesn't feel right to me, and I've said this literally since Midjourney came out, version 2. I was like, oh, if you're triggering beauty using someone else's life work, it never felt right to me to then monetize that work, because you are directly taking from them using their name. You are, I don't think stealing is the right word, but you're targeting a very specific look without even trying to describe it yourself. You're just channeling it, harnessing it using their name that their ancestors and their parents granted them. They spent their whole lives working to associate that name with a look, a style. And in the year of our Lord, 2023, 2022, 2024, whatever, you're just plucking that name, inserting it into a machine, and then you're trying to make money off of what that creates. Like, that does not feel right at all. It does not feel good. You really can't stop people from doing it. There's a lot of less than moral people out there. So I think artists and IP holders have a legitimate beef with people trying to make money off of their likeness. However, the bot is not marketed as an IP generator. You can use Midjourney to create anything. So is Midjourney responsible for what its users create? In the same sense that you could go into Photoshop and you could, if you have the skill, recreate photos of anything, of people, of places, any sort of IP. You can harness all of that inside of Photoshop. Is Adobe responsible for anything people create? I don't want to exaggerate for the sake of exaggeration and like ruin the conversation. So please don't take what I'm about to say as like, oh, I'm blowing up the argument on purpose. No. A hammer, I'm pretty sure, was built to be a tool to help put things together, maybe rip things apart, but it was to help build, I'm assuming. Then people realized they could use this hammer on other people and they could commit bad crimes. Is the people who make the hammer responsible? Like, that's the extreme of the argument, but that's the argument. That's the logic. Like, why blame the tool creator for what people do with the tool? Like, is the internet bad just because a lot of people use the internet for bad? Is social media bad because a lot of people use social media for bad things? I don't think that argument stands strong. But I don't know, what do you think? I'm not a lawyer. I'm not really that smart. If someone came to me and said, oh my god, Midjourney has stolen my likeness and it's stealing my copyrighted intellectual property, legitimately, the first thing I would say was like, okay, let's go talk to a lawyer. Let's attack this through the law. Forget emotion. Like, let's figure out the correct wording of existing laws that can help your case. If you're not doing that, then I don't know if you'll really be able to make a difference. But that's all I got for you. Okay, maybe this is a similar idea. Similar is not the right word, but you're going after Midjourney because it's an entity. It's a recognizable name. There's a CEO. It's a product. It makes money. It sells something. But what about open source? Open source is absolutely terrifying. And I have a friend who is way on the peripheral of AI. He likes talking about it, but he doesn't interact with it very much. And he has, on a few different occasions, sent me some talking points about open source AI and how we're just giving the keys to the kingdom to anyone who wants to download them. And I know a lot of people, probably the general consensus is that open source is a good thing because it creates a level playing field, in the sense that open source is better than closed, gated AI that only a certain amount of people can use. Maybe. However, there's no way the entire world having access to AI like Stable Diffusion, there's no way it's a good thing. There's no way, I'm telling you, literally impossible, that the good outweighs the bad. As far as the good, you're just accelerating maybe art expression, you're accelerating maybe visual therapy, artistic therapy, and maybe you're accelerating production and workflow. Those are like three things that weren't necessarily hindered before. Like, they accelerated something that didn't necessarily need accelerating. The bad, you're accelerating some of the worst crippling crimes you can imagine. Identity theft, deep fakes, like the ability to show something happening that didn't happen, something that's not real. Feels silly to mention this as a talking point, but spreading misinformation. I think people should be allowed to be wrong. I've never understood why you would try and censor someone for having a different opinion. Like, if they're wrong, let them be wrong and just try to explain to everyone else why they're wrong. But deliberately creating fake accounts, whether that's through open source GPT, not necessarily open source, but accessing it through the API, or building your own chatbots, creating fake pictures, spreading misinformation on purpose for ulterior motives. That would have been pretty difficult a few years ago. When you make this stuff open source, you are accelerating the absolute worst in humanity. You're accelerating things that 99.9% of people have no built-in self-defense for. You're bringing in literal science fiction to reality, and like, what are we expecting humans to adapt? Have you met humans? Like, people are so unprepared for everybody being able to fake something. I've talked about this enough in the past, but open source just gives so much opportunity and ammo to people who legitimately want to do bad things. Cloning your voice. So yes, open source accelerates some good things. Open source also accelerates identity theft, deep fakes, spreading incorrect information on purpose, confusion. It accelerates, I would try and coin the phrase like true loneliness. Maybe you could argue that AI girlfriends or AI boyfriends cure a bit of loneliness. But I would love to know, and I'm sure there will be studies on it, where, you talk to someone and ask them questions 2 years into their relationship with an AI girlfriend. And then you ask the same questions to someone who's 2 years into their relationship with a human girlfriend. And you try and track and compare the differences between their answers in the sense of, is your relationship fulfilling? Are AI companions really curing loneliness? Or is it just sort of a mask in the way that, I don't know, maybe alcohol is in some way? Like, if you asked a drunk person, are you happy? They might say yeah. But if they were being honest, they're probably unhappy. You know, that sort of paradox that happens? And I wonder, would someone who considers themselves in a relationship with an AI, would they say they're happy, they're content, they're fulfilled? Or if they were being honest, would they say, I can't believe I'm doing this? Like, I wish it was even more real. Like, I don't know. I'm not going to speak for people who are going through things that I'm not going through. And different things make different people happy. But again, I don't think that's the point. I think the point is the acceleration of it, and how the entire world is given the opportunity to do certain things faster than ever before, and there's no oversight. These companies were just allowed to release these models. And then maybe it's a bit of hypocritical for me to feel that way, because, again, do you blame the companies or do you blame the users? And at what point do you have to protect the users from themselves? Maybe just going back to the copyright issue, like, sure, you're going after Midjourney, but who's stopping anyone from using Stable Diffusion to train their own model on literally an entire film, let's just say the Batman, and generate their own versions of it? Like, who are you going after? Maybe that's why I think it comes down to money. It's because people can already do what you think the issue is, which is recreate your work. A lot of people can do that in a few different ways. So why is Midjourney the bad guy? I don't know. Maybe it's because they've said that they don't want to be. No, I don't know. I don't know. You know what? Let's get to something a little more fun. Predictions for the year of 2024. I have, I think, one main prediction. No, I had two predictions and then a third one that didn't come from me, but I would love to hear what you think about it. So the first is a music-based prediction. And I said this probably about 12 months ago that I thought a bot would be able to analyze songs. Let's say you gave them 100 popular songs, that it's not necessarily going to take Taylor Swift's likeness and song style and create new Taylor Swift songs. And it's not necessarily going to do that for, pick an artist. But if you gave them 100 popular songs, I think an AI is going to be able to create song 101. It's going to take a mix of popular songs and it's going to be able to extend that mix with like a new popular song that will be a mix of all of them. And I think that's the day that will be remembered for a long time. Like, what if you could start a 1990s rap playlist on Spotify and it never ends? Sure, some real songs are in there because maybe you will get the choice to do that, but maybe you'll get to generate. Like, maybe there's a button at the end of the playlist that says, like, generate more. Could be as simple as that. And it's just going to create a new song based on everything it's learned about what you've already fed it. It's not going to, like I said, okay, well, maybe that's incorrect of me. If you only fed it Taylor Swift music, maybe it could create another Taylor Swift song. But what I'm thinking of is more like a radio station where, you're listening to all the pop music, or a country station, and it's just going to create new songs for you, new country songs. And I think it would be so good at it that you would have no idea if it was real or not. And then there has to be some sort of way for you to save that song. And then, like, is the AI going to show you the prompt it used to create it? Is it going to create a new fake artist? Like, I wonder how that will work. I wonder how the presentation will work, because I feel like a lot of virability, what's the word? I feel like there will be a lot of viral content that comes from that. Like, hey, check out this country song I generated. And you want to talk about losing your soul and plagiarism and whatnot. Social media is so far out of control. Influencers they'll do anything. They'll literally go harass people in public just for views. Nothing is going to stop them from generating music based on one or more artists. Like, hey, I blended Michael Jackson and the Beatles and I created a new song about sleeping in on the weekends. And it's going to be a banger. And it's going to get thousands, millions of views and shares. And like, I don't know how you're going to stop it. I think, and I've said this before, it's up to these music companies like Spotify to just embrace it, I think. Okay, maybe I have a couple more predictions. And I don't know if it would necessarily come this year. It's definitely not going to happen this year. But I think that same idea of AI-generated radio stations is going to be the basis of entertainment for TV and movies. Now, this is sort of maybe a 2 to 3 year prediction, but it often gets talked about by the CEO of Midjourney, and maybe this is where I get the idea from, that whatever we think AI will be used for now is not what AI is going to be used for. When radio was invented, they just read theater plays on the radio. They didn't know what radio was until it evolved on its own. And when TV was invented, I'm pretty sure radio was just presented on the TV, and then they adapted and evolved into TV shows and whatnot. So we think about using AI on our existing media, but that's probably not what's going to happen. There's going to be something new. I think that something new is going to involve paid for licenses and then something like free reign generation. So you have your Netflix subscription in the year 2026. I think you'll be able to look for a TV show that they have. We'll say Breaking Bad, we'll say The Office, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Stranger Things, whatever. And I think you'll literally be able to generate a new episode. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. In fact, I think that's what's going to happen. You're going to hear about advertisements in the way like, hey everybody, we just got the license to Sylvester Stallone. Come and create your favorite 80s movie ever. Like something like that, where generation is going to be the promotion. And it's going to be like a la carte, where you get to choose what you're generating, and maybe they'll give you some guidelines and some guardrails. And maybe they'll pay these celebrities based on how often their work or their likeness gets generated. Like, do you want to see Taylor Swift in an episode of The Office? I think that will be possible. Now, let me get back to the year 2024. I think we're going to see something like a scene extender. Like right now, you can provide an image, or sometimes you can do straight text to video, and it creates a scene. The max is like 4 seconds long at the moment. I think by the end of the year, you'll be able to specify a second scene and have the first translate into the second. The frames in between will all be generated. So if you provide a picture of a horse walking down a street in a still frame, I think you'll be able to generate that horse walking down the street, and then you'll be able to type in something like a horse parking lot or something silly, I don't really know. But then you'd be able to see that horse walk down the street to a horse parking lot. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, I think you'll be able to connect more than one scene together. And I bet there will be some sort of control net type feature for generation where you'll provide a picture, the machine will establish a skeleton, and then you can like first confirm that the skeleton makes sense, and then you'll be able to control certain movements, or maybe a starting position and an ending position. That would probably be a little difficult to handle, and I think a lot of the most successful AIs will be user-friendly. So maybe that means more than one generation per prompt. So instead of you needing to be exact, it gives you 3 or 4 different options, and you said, no, that's the one I wanted. That's what I meant. Something like that. So that's my, uneducated guess on the next year. But then I heard something recently in the Midjourney office hours. The CEO truly believes that within 12 months, we'll be able to generate our own worlds. He called it a holodeck, and the holodeck is a concept from Star Trek where you can go and you can, it doesn't really apply to real life because your entire field of view gets encapsulated, I think that's the right word, in a new simulated world, and you get to go have these experiences walking through a jungle or literally anything. Now, I don't think that's really going to happen in 12 months. Maybe it's just through your computer screen, but David really thinks that it's at least possible within 12 months, and that's like his overarching goal is to keep pushing the tech until we get there, and that might come in 12 months. So if there was how would it present itself? Would it be a choose your own adventure idea where you're looking at your screen and you're in a jungle, and then you can walk forward and see more of the jungle, and you could look to your left, and maybe it doesn't look like you could walk through there, but you can brush away the leaves and walk into the darkness of a jungle. Like, is it going to simulate 1 square foot at a time, or is it going to simulate a world, place a camera in the world, and then let you walk through that world 1 step at a time? I don't know. I have no idea when it comes to that. But hearing the word holodeck in 12 months in the same sentence was pretty mind-blowing. And he didn't say that in his opening address where he really talks about what they're working on. He said it in response to a question, maybe even a joking question like holodeck when, and he just used that word to create some sort of connection with what he's really picturing. But my sense is that it all comes down to processing power. And these GPUs are not really getting updated every 12 months anymore. It's really like every 4 to 6 months we see a big improvement, at least on the not necessarily commercial side of things, but I think in these gigantic server pipelines, most expensive GPUs you can imagine. The GPUs that Midjourney uses that takes 45 seconds to run through all of these different checkpoints and everything to create a picture, to create 4 pictures. I don't think regular people have access to these GPUs. I don't think you can buy what they use. I'm pretty sure you can't. Because commercial GPUs are mass produced, and I think a big limitation of these AI companies are physically getting their hands on enough of these newer GPUs. I could be speaking out of place there because I don't know for sure that they have access to things that we don't, but just from me listening, I get the sense that they're they're playing on a different playing field. I'm pretty sure. So within 12 months, is there going to be enough GPU development to where, instead of 1 picture or 4 pictures, Midjourney is going to be able to create a world that you can explore? I don't know. He thinks it's possible. And if he thinks it's possible, that's the best guess that any random person is going to have. Better than any random person. Granted, he's not always correct, but he's the closest to the truth, for sure. His guess is way better than ours. Ooh, that gets me excited about... Maybe excited's not the right word, but I could see this happening. Apple, in their new Vision Pro, that sort of headset, if they launched with a generative AI that is inside the headset, so if you look to your left, you're seeing something, and if you look to your right, you're seeing something. And I don't know how you control movement inside of those things, but perhaps they could figure that out. Maybe, I don't know, I'm not going to speculate on how you could do it, but if you could walk in a virtual space and have the goggles generate what you see on the fly, that'd be pretty cool. You can kind of already, you can already do that with pre-made environments, so why wouldn't you be able to generate on the fly? Again, isn't that just a processing issue? A power constraint that won't be a constraint anymore? Okay, you know what? I gotta talk about some of my anxiety. I have so much anxiety about upgrading my computer gear. I made a 48-minute video recently for my channel. January 1st, launched a beginner's guide to Midjourney. Didn't include half the stuff I would have wanted to. Really just tried to stick to the most basic of things that a new person would want and need to know. 48 minutes long. Editing that thing is a pain in the butt. I have an RTX 3070. I've got 48 gigabytes of RAM, but RAM's not really the bottleneck. As far as I can tell, the bottleneck is GPU and CPU. So I have so much anxiety around upgrading my setup because of how fast this technology grows. And if I were to spend the money on some new gear, again, I've said this before, but I think we're on the precipice of AI-powered gear. And I don't know if that's going to be so much more expensive that whatever you buy now is going to seem like a deal no matter what, or if the price points are just going to get replaced and anything you buy now is going to be 90% off because the new stuff it's the generational leap. I don't know, but that makes me worried that that's going to happen. And then my 3 options are buy a new PC with a big enough motherboard to handle a bigger GPU, a better CPU, a solid state hard drive for that's the other bottleneck, might be the hard drive. So I don't know if I have to buy an $8, $9, $10,000 PC because PC parts are just so expensive. The prices have not dropped. They used to be somewhat reasonable, and now it's twice the price. Oh God, it's out of control. So I don't know if I do that. The second option I have is to switch ecosystems and go with Apple products. Something I do not want to do, but their new M chips are so impressive and their ecosystem works so well together their machines are so quiet, but there's a lot of cons when it comes to Apple. Like a lot of cons that like really bother me. One, they're not very upgradable, so even if you wanted to upgrade, it's not part of the thing. You have to buy a new machine. Second, there is a lot of planned obsolescence. They have no qualms with slowing down your old machine so that you buy a new machine. And just that behavior is so anti-human that I mean, there's a reason I don't have any Apple products right now because I don't like how they treat their customers. And then the other thing is you're paying a premium price. Their stuff is really expensive and their price points are set up so that you're always incentivized to spend a couple hundred more to get the next thing. And then when you're at that thing, well, you could just spend a couple hundred more to get the best version of that thing. Like the fact that there are M2 chips, M2 Pro, M2 Max, and M2 Ultra, I think is it's difficult to interact with and to justify in your own head. Like, if you get the M2 Pro, you're always going to wonder what the Max was like, and you're always going to wonder what the Ultra was like. And it seems like FOMO is built into the design, and I don't know if I want to be a part of that, even though the experience looks amazing. Third option I have is to upgrade individual parts of my computer, like maybe buying a new GPU, but I don't want to do that. It's like $3,000 Canadian. I know American prices look a little less bad, but they're terrible when you convert the price. So I don't want to upgrade the GPU. I don't know if my motherboard can handle a new CPU. Like I don't know that for sure. So the main thing I might be able to upgrade is my SSD or upgrade to an SSD, and that could help a lot with load times while editing. And it's probably like the best, economic decision I can make at the moment. But I'm also just not well versed in it. And I've been trying to study it for like the last 3 weeks of what to do, which decision to make. And like I was talking to Bing's AI about some tech recently, not necessarily anything to do with the computer, but something else actually. And the bot was just straight up hallucinating. It was telling me that there were certain words, because I was looking for a certain feature, and the bot was telling me that that feature was available on a product, and it was like, yes, right here it says blah, 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 and I would click on the link, and there would be absolutely nothing that was referenced. And then I was like, I'm sorry, Bing, but what you're saying isn't true. It's not there. And the thing said to me, I disagree. I think it's there. Based on what I read, what you want is there. And I'm like, listen, I hit Control F to search for the exact words you said were there, and it's not there. And then it said, I think it's best that we end this conversation. And it stopped talking to me. I was so upset with this thing. Sorry, that's my little rant about trying to upgrade an AI, asking it for help, and it just not being very helpful, because AI isn't good at saying, I don't know. If you ask it for something, it's going to give you an answer. It just doesn't necessarily have to be true, which is so frustrating. So I have a lot of anxiety about upgrading my setup, and I don't know what to do. I don't really know why I brought that up. Okay, I think that's enough of a conversation to start the year of 2024. I'd love to hear from you. I really want to know where you see this all going. Please let me know what you think about that plagiarism case. Am I missing something? Probably. And I need your help. I hope you're doing well. Take care, and I'll see you next time. Peace.